Good afternoon and welcome to the third showing of the Sports Sit-Down. This is our third show and I'm glad you can join us. I'm your host, Sunay, and with me I have three wonderful panelists. So let me introduce them to you for today. First, to the right of me, I have CJ. Then to the left of me, I have Nate. And of course, Kieran Costa. So currently the NBA and the NFL have kicked off, or tipped off, and the MLB just finished off with a wonderful World Series with the Astros and the Dodgers. In the NBA, the Celtics are off to a quick and hot start, and it may be surprising to some. And in the NFL, my Philadelphia Eagles are off to an amazing start, and seems like they found their franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz since Donovan McNabb. On this show, we'll talk about it all, but guys, the World Series just ended, so let's get to that. Nate, let's start with you. Break down the World Series for us.
Yeah, just recap all your memory. We have the Astros who won in 7 games. They won in Los Angeles, and it was a very good series. Very high scoring, great pitching, and it was a solid series. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
I mean, just one thing I have to say. Out of all the World Series where you have the most home runs hit, this is a great time to do that because every home run hit, T-Mobile would donate $10,000 to hurricane relief, so that's great for all the cities.
And might I just interrupt you right there? But just remember the World Series winners, the Houston Astros. It's months before winning the World Series, they went through Hurricane Harvey. I mean, that's a really strong. That's gonna be a thing that journalists will talk about for years upon to come.
Mm-hmm. And just something to add to that. I mean, so the Astros, hey, they did win for their city. They did win for Hurricane Harvey. But their bullpen actually impressed me a lot. So, the Dodgers go in, and they've got Brandon Morrow. They've got Kenta Maeda. They got KJ. Their bullpen on paper, dude, that looks like a complete win right there. The thing that surprised me, you got to look at this. Chris Davinsky, Brad Peacock, Charlie Morton, they shut down the Astros. So they shut down the Dodgers in all the games. They came in. Peacock got a save, and no one expected him to do that. The work he did. Now, Ken Giles, who was their closer in the regular season, I don't know if he's going to be coming back as the closer next year just because of how poorly he did. And another thing that I think was a little surprising is Dave Roberts' decision to go to Yu Darvish for Game 7. Now, the thing is, what I'm surprised by is Darvish had gotten teed off in Game 3. Some thought he was tipping his pitches. Some people didn't. But Dave Roberts still decided to stick with him, and I'm actually wondering if that cost the Dodgers the series. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would have gone with Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers in MLB history. He started off the Dodgers to a great start in Game 1, which they beat the Astros by 2, and I feel like it would have definitely played a big difference in the World Series.
I think Kieran's the biggest baseball fan here, and I know he agrees with that also.
I mean, I think they should have gone to Kershaw maybe even for the first 5 innings and then went to their closer early instead of letting Darvish start, then going to Kershaw. I say they start with Kershaw and then maybe have Darvish as a weapon out of a bullpen for 1 inning. And I think we might see the Astros in the World Series for a long time to come. George Springer, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, and Jose Altuve, their first 4 hitters, all under the age of 26. That team can stay good for a long time.
Might I just remind you, Sports Illustrated back in 2014 predicted that the Astros would win the World Series in 2017, and boy, were they right. And I think they're going to become a dynasty, just like the 1930s Yankee team or something like that.
That's pushing it a bit, in my opinion. But, I'm going to let SI, too, throw on horn a little. This is one of the first times they've actually gotten their prediction right.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing, because, they have this theory about the SI curse, and that never happens. And it's I think it's good for them to finally get one correct.
Yeah, and of course, this was the first World Series victory for the Astros.
Yeah. Question for you, when was the last time the Astros won a World Series?
This year, but they went to the World Series back in 2005, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly, and they lost to the White Sox before.
They got swept, so Game 1 was their first World Series win, or Game 2, sorry.
Yeah, Game 2.
Well, for me as a fan, of sports in general, it was so fun to watch. Game 5 was crazy. I tuned in about the 7th inning, and then from there I just had a blast. Then Game 6 was also pretty fun to watch. It seemed like, honestly, when I watched Game 6, I thought the Dodgers were going to win it all. They had they had a home stand. Dodgers are pretty good at home, right? And then all of a sudden you see McCullers Jr. come in, who did pretty good. But CJ, to go back to your point about you, Darvish, I did think that lost them that game. I mean, I don't think that was a great decision there by Dave Roberts. All I can say that the World Series was really, really fun to watch, at least for me.
The Game 7 could have been better for me. Like, there was chances where the Dodgers could have easily, like, gotten to a place control. They had runners on the base, and they couldn't have taken advantage.
And that's just showing, how good the Astros bullpen was, shutting them down during those key spots.
Yeah.
Charlie Morton is definitely a key. So now let's talk about basketball. NBA just started out of the long 82-game schedule. But there are some teams that have jumped out on early wins and early losses. So, guys, what team has surprised you? Kieran, let's start with you.
I have the Celtics as my surprise team. Everyone thought they'd be good, maybe even the 1 seed in the West. But East, sorry. 4 minutes into their season, Gordon Hayward goes down with an injury. Then all the views completely changed, and everyone thought the Cavs would be one. Since the Hayward injury, they lost their first 2 games, and they've won 11 straight. Kyrie's been a beast, but I think a big game to show who they are is they play the Warriors this week at TD Garden. I think if they can win that game, they will really show that they're a team to be reckoned with here in the 17-18 season.
Nate, who's your surprise team?
Well, just to add on to what you said, I think they've won something like 11 straight. Insane, absolutely insane. My surprise team, I feel like this is kind of the obvious one. I'm going with the Magic. You have great scorers, great defense, led by Evan Fournier, averaging 20.5 points per game and 1.5 steals. And Aaron Gordon, the great dunker, averaging 19.3 points per game and 8.3 rebounds per game. I have a question for you guys. Do you think Aaron Gordon should be known as a dunker or an all-around player now after this campaign?
I don't know. That's a hard one because I know I saw him play in high school, and he was a good dunker then. But I think the thing was he could go into the paint and score. I think he's a little more of an all-rounder than he is. I think he could dunk more in high school because in high school the competition's not as good. When he gets to the NBA, it goes up by a lot. So I think he would probably be a better all-around player in the NBA than a dunker straight away.
Who was your surprise team?
My surprise team is the Warriors. And now this might strike some of you as a little odd. It's the Warriors, they're always good, but slow start. They didn't start out well. They lost the Rockets by 1 point. And then they've had some key injuries. I mean, Green and Iggy have gone down. And they went down, and that's really hurting them. Kevin Durant has not been performing super well.
I mean, Steph Curry could be on a Fed MVP campaign.
Yeah, he is, but it's a supporting cast. It's a team. That's what Kerr's been preaching the whole time. It's a team effort, and the guys on the bench, they haven't been able to pick up as much as they were able to last year.
Well, Klay Thompson's having. I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
Klay Thompson's been having the best time of his life in terms of basketball. He's been doing it absolutely insane.
Also, maybe this could be a good stretch. Out of their next 5 games, they play the 76ers twice and the Nets once.
Well, I think the 76ers are actually a very solid team this year with trust the process, guys. Trust the process.
Well, to your point, I think the defense also not doing that great. They gave up 100 plus to the Pistons. It's the Pistons. I mean, they're doing good this year, but I mean, they're not the best. My surprise team has got to be the Bucks. Even though they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon's averaging about 15 points, which is very good. They got Eric Bledsoe now, but they're 4-5. They've lost to the Hornets, they've lost to Bulls, and the Cavs. And all 3 of those teams are low in the Eastern Conference standings.
I mean, to add on to what you said, the Bulls, no one's expecting the Bulls to do well this year at all. They don't have that many good players anymore. I mean, all of them have either left or they've gone down with injuries.
Yeah.
Losing to the Cavs, okay, isn't a big surprise, but it's still, the Cavs aren't doing that well.
The Cavs, though, I have a couple teams on the surprise list. The Cavs, they're just 5-7. They have solid scorers in LeBron James and Kevin Love, but they just haven't been producing that much, and they've been having some pretty easy games against not that great teams, and they've been losing to them.
But you also can never count out a team with LeBron James. Yeah. He can pull anything out down the stretch.
And LeBron James is, in my opinion, playing the best ball since old school Cleveland back in in the mid-07s.
Well, regardless, the Eastern Conference standings are going to be interesting. The Bucks
finally, Eastern Conference is interesting.
I mean, well, it always has the lower seeds, but regardless, I expected them to be 6-3 or 7-2, not 4-5. But next up, it's winter time. That means it's playoff time for the NFL. I hope the playoffs are good this year, so let's do it, guys. NFL predictions. on your screen, you're seeing Kyrie Irving, the superstar from the Celtics, and we're going to talk about him a little more later on the show. But for now, let's talk about some surprises in the playoffs. Nate, start out with the 4th seed of the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, right now in the 4th seed. You mind holding on to this?
Yes,
thing?
mate, I can
Yeah,
hold on.
the 4th seed right now we have the Jags. And Jags, it was a little bit of a mystery team at the beginning. You have Blake Bortles in the LA quarterback competition, but he's been proving himself. And in my opinion, but the biggest advantage to them this year is that defense. Great corners, great linebacking, great all-around great defense.
Yeah, in the 5 seed, of course, we got the Tennessee Titans. Now Tennessee, that's a surprise probably to many of you who have been following football. I mean, Marcus Mariota's finally coming out. The Titans are doing very well. And it's also kind of nice to see a team that hasn't had a good year since they left Houston as the Oilers.
Yep.
How many of you remember the original Houston Oilers in the gaudy light blue?
I don't even know if we were born then. All right, let's move on to the 3rd spot.
The 3rd spot, we got Pittsburgh Steelers, led by Ben Roethlisberger. They're in the playoffs again. They've been very consistent.
Now for the 6th spot, I'm going to go for the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are also another surprise team. We have the Jags, the Titans, and also now the Bills. Bills are a great defensive team. They play great on defense, and the defense is really their motto.
Yeah. Number 2, we got the Chiefs. Solid offense, solid defense. Even though Eric Berry out for the season, very sad. Their offense has just been killing it. You have Alex Smith, Kareem Hunt, not been having the best in his last couple of games, but the receiving core has been stepping up, led by Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. We got the Chiefs.
Yep. And at number 1, if any of this is a surprise to you, I hope it's not. It's Tom Brady and the Pats. You have to go with the Pats as number 1 this year. They're just blowing everybody away. It's just another romp for them.
Let's move on to the NFC side now. Some people say they're the more interesting division. So let's move on to number 4. For number 4, I have the Seattle Seahawks. The Hawks just lost Richard Sherman, sadly. But I think their defense is formidable. They still have Earl Thomas and company to take care of it.
Number 5, we have the Carolina Panthers. And 2 years ago, this would have been a great matchup. But now, I don't think so. Especially with the defenses, it's going to be more one-sided, in my opinion, this matchup. You have Cam Newton playing great ball, great defense again from Carolina. This is just what we expected from this Carolina team, even though who had a bad season last year.
Yeah, and at number 3, you've got the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this might be a little bit of a surprise. I mean, they don't exactly have a super great team, but what's good is that their conference isn't doing so well this year, so they've been able to take the top spot. Toby Gerhart, the ex-Stanford grad, and he's actually been doing okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really nice to see how he's doing well. I mean, he had a couple bad years, and now I think he's finally starting to turn it around.
I remember when Gerhart was at Stanford, it was just pure Toby time, Heisman nominee and stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
All right, let's move on to the 6th seed. We're putting Dallas here, guys. Dallas losing Ezekiel Elliott, it does not matter. Dallas, let me say some reasons why. A, pretty easy schedule, and their offense has been on a blast. Even though some people are saying it's only been for 2 weeks, they've been scoring, and also, don't count out that boy, Alfred Morris. So I'm going to put the Cowboys at number 6. Now let's go to 1 and 2. CJ, who do you have at 1?
Actually, would it be number 2, wouldn't it?
We're going number 1 or number 2 first. Number 1, now this is going to be a surprise to many out there in the football world. Philadelphia, 8-1, huge turnaround.
Carson Wentz, in my opinion, MVP.
Carson Wentz, people are talking about as a legitimate MVP candidate with the names of course, Alex Smith and Tom Brady. Now, here's the interesting thing. Brady overall is a better passer. Wentz is a better rusher. In my opinion, if you're trying to pick for MVP, that's like comparing Dan Marino to Steve Young, because Marino was basically stuck pocket passer. Steve Young would take it and run. It's going to be hard to.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what in the modern game, which do you count as more valuable?
I feel like in the modern game right now, it's been, especially with more quarterbacks coming up in the ranks at college, Deshaun Watson, Taj Boyd, it's going to be more a mobile quarterback in the years to come. I feel like it's going to be more important to be a scrambler on the pocket rather than just being a pocket passer with the elusiveness of modern-day defensive linemen. Anyway, number 2, we have the Saints. This might also surprise some people, but the Saints, they've been doing really well this year. Drew Brees playing great football, and with they traded Adrian Peterson. Everyone thought that was a bad move, But Kamara is stepping up big time. Michael Thomas also having a great year. Is exactly what he said. And unexpectedly, the defense, the secondary is really bad. Has been really bad in the past couple of years, but they've definitely been stepping up. I don't know what the defense has been doing there. Well, I don't know what the coaches have been doing, but they've been doing some good stuff.
Come January time, or February time, we're gonna find out who this is. It could either be Philly or the New England Patriots, or even someone from out here. So now let's go back and let's talk about more NBA and NFL with the 3 Things segment. On the screen, you might be seeing Roger Goodell, or maybe not, but we're going to talk about Roger Goodell just a while, as he now is the NFL commissioner, as he always has been. But Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell have been going at it for quite a while now. Roger Goodell is trying to get out Jerry Jones because of the latest Ezekiel Elliott suspension. So now let's move on to 3 things. So as we hit the 20-minute mark, let's do our 3 things segment. This first thing for this show is that, of course, Roger Goodell versus Jerry Jones. Then the second thing is that Doug Baldwin said that the NFL Thursday Night Football, should be illegal, and I don't know how you guys feel about that. But then lastly, Las Vegas feels that Carson Wentz should be favored over Tom Brady for the MVP. So Nate, let's start out with you, and just quick.
Okay, well, I feel like the thing that right here is Carson Wentz. I know you're excited to hear what I'm going to say about this, but I feel like Carson Wentz should be the MVP. The Eagles have the best record in the NFL. They've been in Carson Wentz. He's been 262 yards, 23 touchdowns, 60.5 completion percentage, and this would be good for the NFL as well. Rather than having some old guy winning the MVP, it would have a young quarterback who could become the player for the NFL that would become to ages, and that'd be good for the NFL to just start off young and keep on going until he's the Tom Brady of the old guy.
Kieran, what do you think?
I do not think Thursday Night Football should be canceled. I think that would be way too many games to play Sunday. Just break it up into 3 days. You give teams even a little more time for resting if you get a bye, and then you will have almost another week off. I think they should leave it and go Monday, Thursday, and then most of the games on Sunday.
Well, I disagree with you, actually. The NFL, it would help the networks with ratings and stuff. It's unpopular with fans going on a SWEC/school night. And the only upside, in my opinion, for Thursday Night Football is the cool uniforms, like the retros and the old neon uniforms from Seattle. That's the only cool side of it.
Yeah, I guess it's a cool side of it, but there's also some pros and cons for the players. Yeah. CJ, what do you think?
Well, for me, Goodell versus Jerry Jones, and this is kind of sad. So Jones, the thing he's fighting about, it isn't even Goodell shouldn't even be commissioner. He's upset about the contract he currently has. He doesn't like the proposed deal. Now, apparently, according to the New York Times earlier today, apparently the deal is almost passed by the 6 on the commissioner staff. They've almost apparently passed it through. Jones is really not liking it. He wants Goodell to be paid more on Goodell's performance and not on all the bonuses that apparently he's been getting. He's also upset about the Ezekiel Elliott case, and rightfully so. I mean, as far as I know, there wasn't enough evidence to convict Zeke, and he's just not happy with it. I mean, just overall, I don't think Goodell's been doing a super good job as the commissioner.
Yeah, well, I side with Jerry Jones overall. Roger Goodell, really unpopular with fans. He's obviously unpopular with Jerry Jones and a couple other owners that I know of. And just give everybody what they want. Get him out. I don't really care.
I like the Carson Wentz thing. Carson Wentz over Brady. We finally have a young quarterback with us. I think Carson Wentz should win MVP. He's played great this year, as always. The winning team, like Falcons, like the Panthers, as we saw in the years before, usually their quarterbacks do win MVP.
Well, that's coming from an Eagles fan, but I'll let that one slide. I agree with you. The stats, I will honestly, if you're looking at the stats, Tom Brady has 2,541 yards. That's almost 300 more than Wentz. Although he has 16 touchdowns, he has less interceptions, and he has a better completion percentage by 6%.
All right, so next we have that's the end of our last Wrangle segment. Next we have our last and final discussion about some things. So first, I'm going to start out with the NBA We talked about surprise teams before. What surprise teams can finish it off and keep it up? CJ, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, just look at the list. I actually think the Grizzlies. I mean, they started out. They're doing very well, actually, surprisingly. They don't have a lot of good guys, but Tyreek Evans and Mario Chalmers are actually doing pretty well. And I think if Parsons stays hot from 3, I mean, currently he's 12 for 22. They actually might have a legitimate shot to at least make the playoffs, and I think maybe give the team a run for their money.
Yeah, well, like Marcus Gasol, like, having a beast a year. Mike Conley, as usual, being the great defensive player that he is. Well, my surprise NBA team that can keep it up is the Rockets, led by and this is a team that's without a great leader in Chris Paul. He could be out for another 2 weeks. But James Harden just is glad to be in that single big player role, averaging almost 30 points per game, 10 assists, and 1.8 steals per game. And then you have a couple players that stepped up big time for them. Clint Capella, 13.3 points per game. But listen to this, 10.8 rebounds per game. That's averaging a double-double. And, of course, Eric Gordon, the starting shooting guard, averaging 22.8 points per game.
Kieran, who is your team that can keep it up?
I think the Celtics can keep it up. They have to get to the playoffs maybe one round, and some people are saying Gordon Hayward can get back for the conference semifinal or the NBA championship. So if they can get there and get Hayward in rhythm, I think that team can give the Warriors a run in the finals.
I think the
and take the
Philadelphia,
East.
sorry to cut you off, but I think the Philadelphia 76ers can keep it up. They've been winning some good games. They beat the Rockets one time, and they also came close to a couple teams. If they can use Ben Simmons to their advantage, and then Markelle Fultz, who's been sort of kind of a bust so far in some people's minds, if they, all these three, and also Joel Embiid, if they can keep it up, I think they can maybe sneak in there at 7 or 8 spot for the NBA playoffs.
They
Now,
are playing the Warriors tonight.
Yeah.
They are. That's a big matchup.
Can I just talk a couple things more about the Rockets? Actually, if you look at their schedule for the rest of November and December, they only have a couple tricky games. They have two games against the Memphis Grizzlies, and then one game against the Toronto Raptors, and one game against the 76ers, and then nothing much else. This is going to be an easy stretch for the Rockets. I think they can keep it up, holding that number 1 seed in the West.
They are without Chris Paul, but now let's move on back to the NFL. Which is the most surprising team so far? We've talked about Philadelphia. We've talked about the Chiefs being higher up in the seed, and then also the Jaguars, the Titans, then also the Vikings, somewhat of a surprise. Kieran, who is your surprise team?
I'm going on a surprise in a bad way. I think some people say Super Bowl hangover is a thing. I feel like the Atlanta Falcons are feeling that now. A rough start. I think they're 4-4 right now. And if they want to make a playoff push, they really have to step it up in the second half of the season.
Nate, who is your surprise team?
Well, my surprise team is actually for the good, and that's for the city of Los Angeles. They haven't had a football team for a while now, and the Rams are just stepping up. They have the best record in the NFC West with 6-2. Jared Goff, just drafted last April, stepping immediately into the starting QB role. 2,030 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 60.2 completions. I think Jared Goff could be a dark horse MVP candidate, or definitely offensive rookie player of the year. Todd Gurley, he didn't have that impressive a year last year, but he's having a great year this year. 686 yards, 7 touchdowns, and the great receiving group of Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Sammy Watkins. It's been a great year for Los Angeles in football.
Good for that city of the Angels. I'm going to actually go with the Minnesota Vikings. They are without a good quarterback. I mean, Sam Bradford's not the best quarterback, and he's always injured. Teddy Bridgewater's also injured, and then they're stuck with few backup quarterbacks. They're doing this without a quarterback, and of course the loss of Adrian Peterson, which people are forgetting. That is pretty hard. Their defense is also their main point. And then also, the thing with that is that Aaron Rodgers is now down, right, guys? So that means they have kind of a gateway of opening. I think they might be able to go into the second round of the playoffs. Remember, the last time they were in the playoffs, they lost because of that Blair Walsh missed field goal, as you guys remember. CJ, who's your surprise team?
Surprise team, this year, I think it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's your Eagles, but their only loss is to the Kansas City Chiefs. that's impressive enough by itself. It's like they've just been having a super good overall year. And they've turned around. The East has traditionally been, a little easier, but usually it's Cowboys and Giants fighting for 1-2, Eagles, Redskins 3-4. Eagles starting to make a good point for, hey, maybe they're a team to be feared. I mean, they're ahead of the Cowboys, 8-1 versus 5-3. The Giants are non-contenders, and the Redskins, being the Redskins, worst field in the NFL.
Can I speak as a superstitious fan? I hope I don't jinx it here, but they have only faced they haven't faced that many good teams, to say the least. I think that is a contention that people can make.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Wait, can I just say a couple things about the Eagles? I mean, they're such a young team, such a young core of offensive players. Nelson Aguilar, Carson Wentz, and then of course you Zach Ertz, and they just got Jay Ajayi, and this is going to be a good year for Philadelphia.
I hope it is. Well, I think that does it for all of us here in the MC studio and the Sports Sit Down. I'm Sunay Singani signing off with Nate, CJ, and Kieran. We hope you enjoyed and had fun watching our show. Thank you to all the crew working in the studio to make this possible. We hope you had a fun time watching, and we'll see you next time.